Welcome back to Andy and Anna Talks, the show where we unpack the big, messy questions of modern life with a little honesty, a little psychology, and hopefully a lot of clarity.
And today, we're diving into something I think, well, almost everyone struggles with sometimes: overthinking.
Absolutely. We looked at the sources you sent in some great articles, personal stories, and it's clear this isn't just, thinking hard.
No, not at all. It's more than that.
Mm.
It's that repetitive loop, right, where you're stuck going over the past or imagining all these future things.
The endless what ifs.
Exactly. The what ifs that don't actually lead anywhere. You don't end up deciding or doing anything.
Someone described it like mental quicksand, which feels spot on. The more you thrash around trying to think your way out.
The deeper you sink. Yeah. Or like you said before we started, like having way too many browser tabs open in your head.
Right. And none of them are loading properly. Everything's just slow and fuzzy.
That overwhelm, that stuck feeling is key. And what's interesting and came up in those pieces is how it can almost feel productive.
Like you're processing.
Like you're being really careful figuring things out.
Yeah.
But often,
It's just fear wearing a thinking cap.
pretty much, yeah, fear disguised as deep thought. Your brain's trying to protect you, but, well, it gets stuck.
Okay, so that's the big question then, looking at these sources. Why? Why do we do this? And crucially, what can we actually do about it?
Exactly. So let's unpack that first part. What is this really? It's not just being
Well,
thoughtful.
no. It's excessive. It stops you, keeps you stuck.
Right. Think about those examples you mentioned from the readings replaying that chat you had.
Yeah.
Worrying you sounded awkward.
We're spending ages on a simple email.
Yeah. Or those huge future possibilities like career changes, just going round and round on them.
Asking what if again and again, but never getting closer to an answer.
It's that quicksand thing again. Trying to solve it all in your head often just digs you in deeper.
And it's exhausting. That feeling you described, the overloaded browser, that mental drain is real.
It really is.
Yeah.
You feel like you're working so hard mentally, putting in all this effort.
But getting zero results. Just more confusion, maybe.
Often, yeah. More confusion, more paralysis. It seems so backwards, doesn't it?
Totally. So, okay, let's get into the psychology. Why do our brains even go there? What
Yeah.
did the articles say about the roots of this?
Well, a lot of it boils down to essentially anxiety and that deep human need for control.
Control.
Our brains are wired for survival, right? To look out for danger. So when things feel uncertain, and let's face it, life is uncertain,
Especially now.
right? That threat detection system can go into overdrive. It starts trying to predict and prevent everything bad that could possibly happen.
Through thinking. Like, if I just think hard enough.
Exactly. If I think hard enough, I can avoid the pain. That's the underlying, maybe unconscious thought.
But life doesn't always work like that, does it? Some things you just can't think your way through.
Precisely. You hit a wall.
Huh.
Some challenges need you to, act, to experience things. You can't just figure it all out beforehand.
Like learning to swim by reading a book. You eventually got to jump in.
Perfect analogy. And then there's perfectionism, which came up a lot in the sources too.
Yeah.
That fear of making the wrong decision
Oh, yeah. So you analyze everything into the ground.
and end up making no decision.
Mhm.
Analysis paralysis. It's a huge trap.
And what about social pressure? Some essays mention that, feeling watched or judged.
Definitely. In this sort of hyper-visible world we live in, we can get really caught up in how we appear, how our choices look.
So you overthink interactions, presentations, even social media posts.
Yeah, it adds another layer of what ifs. What would they think if? It fuels a fire.
Okay, so let's make this concrete. What are some real-life examples of these overthinking traps? Things people listening might recognize.
Okay, well, we mentioned replaying conversations, right? Going over every word, convinced you messed up somehow.
Been there, done that. For hours.
Sure.
Over a tiny comment.
Totally. Or the email thing, agonizing over the tone, the wording, hitting send, then immediately regretting it or worrying.
Yes, or texts. Second-guessing every emoji.
That's another one. And bigger stuff. Spending months, maybe years, just thinking about changing careers or moving house.
Making endless pros and cons lists that somehow make things less clear.
Exactly. The lists just become another form of rumination, not a tool for decision.
And dwelling on the past, right? Not just recent stuff, but things from years ago.
Oh, absolutely. Cringing over something you said in high school or a mistake you made on a project ages ago.
And the kicker is, often you're the only one still thinking about it.
Almost always. The other person probably forgot minutes later. But it lives rent-free in the overthinker's head.
So it's clear this isn't just a harmless quirk. It has real costs. What did the sources say about the downsides?
The costs are pretty significant. First off, it kills momentum. You're spinning your wheels mentally, not moving forward.
Right. And creativity, does it affect that?
Hugely. Your mind's too busy worrying and analyzing to have space for, new ideas or insights. It's like it's clogged.
Makes sense. And the stress, there's a physical side too, isn't there?
Definitely. Chronic overthinking means chronic stress. Headaches, sleep issues, muscle tension. Your body keeps the score.
And ironically, can it actually lead to worse decisions?
Yes. That came up in some research.
Yeah.
When you decide from a place of fear and overwhelm, your judgment isn't clear. You might choose something just to escape the anxiety, not because it's the best path.
Wow. So the biggest cost might just be inaction, staying stuck.
I think so. Staying stuck in the almost phase. Always planning, never doing. Waiting for that perfect moment.
That never actually arrives.
Exactly. Because perfection is an illusion, especially when starting something new.
Okay. So if overthinking is this faulty protection mechanism, what can we actually do instead? What are the practical tools?
Right, the solutions. Your sources offered quite a few good ones. A big one is simply noticing and naming it.
Name it to tame it.
It's the phrase, yeah. Just saying to yourself, okay, I'm overthinking right now. That little bit of awareness creates space. You see the thought instead of being the thought.
It stops being automatic.
Precisely. You can't change what you're not aware of. Another technique is setting a timer for thinking.
How does that work?
You decide, okay, I'm going to actively worry about this for, say, 5 minutes. Set a timer. When it goes off, you consciously shift your focus. Do something else.
So you contain the worry instead of letting it sprawl everywhere.
Exactly. You give it a container. It respects the worry, in a way,
really.
but limits its power. Then there's moving your body.
The physical connection.
Yeah, it's powerful. Getting up, walking, stretching, jumping jacks, anything to shift your physical state. It changes brain chemistry, helps break that mental loop.
Get out of your head and into your body.
Simple, but effective. And another good one, ask better questions.
Instead of the vague what ifs.
Right. Ask things like, okay, what's the simplest next step I could take? Or what am I actually afraid might happen here?
Grounding questions like, will this matter in 5 years?
That's a great one. It brings perspective, which leads to the next point. Take imperfect action.
The antidote to overthinking is doing.
Often, yes, even a tiny step. Send the email, write 1 paragraph, make that call. It shifts you from rumination into motion.
Even if it feels messy or scary.
Especially then. Like one source said, messy action beats endless mental rehearsal. Every time.
Okay. What about talking to someone? Does that help or hinder?
It can help. Talking it out is useful, but with a caveat.
Don't pick someone who just spirals with you.
Exactly. Talk to a friend who offers perspective or, a therapist who can help you unpack the deeper fears driving it. Not just someone who validates the worry endlessly.
Good point. Need a problem solver, not just an echo. And one more I recall, creating a decision deadline.
Yes. If you're stuck on a choice, pick a date. I will decide by Friday at 5 p.m.
Forces you off the fence.
It does. And reminds you, as many sources pointed out, that most decisions aren't final. Life is editable. You can usually adjust later.
Okay, those are great practical tools. But some sources hinted at something deeper, right? A mindset shift.
Yes. Underneath a lot of overthinking is that intense need for control we talked about, trying to manage every single outcome.
Driven by fear.
Fear of mistakes, fear of judgment, fear of regret, all those things. We want this perfect plan.
But life rarely follows a perfect plan.
Hardly ever.
Right.
Success often comes from just taking courageous action despite the uncertainty. So the real shift isn't just thinking better. It's about trusting better.
Trusting yourself.
Trusting yourself, trusting your ability to cope, trusting that you'll be okay even if things don't go perfectly, trusting that clarity often comes after you act, not before.
That's a big one. Clarity comes after action.
It often does. You learn by doing.
So maybe the goal isn't to completely stop ever overthinking again. Is that even possible?
Probably not entirely. It's more about changing your relationship with those thoughts.
How do you mean?
Seeing it as a habit, not like a fundamental flaw in who you are, a pattern your brain learned, probably trying to help, that you can now gently unlearn or redirect.
So acknowledge it. Okay, brain, I see you trying to protect me.
Exactly. Thank it, almost. Thanks for the warning signal. And then consciously choose a different response, like taking one of those small actions.
Less fighting your mind, more collaborating with it, or gently guiding it.
That's a lovely way to put it. Approach the thoughts with curiosity, not judgment. Isn't it interesting how my mind goes here? That softens the struggle.
This is really helpful. So for everyone listening, if this sounds familiar, if you recognize yourself in this,
You are definitely not alone. Welcome to the club. It doesn't mean you're broken,
just human.
just human. And this pattern, it can change with small shifts consistently.
So maybe just try one thing from our chat this week. Notice the spiral and name it. Go for that walk when you feel stuck.
Or set that 5-minute timer. Talk to that supportive friend. Write down one tiny imperfect next step.
Because that clarity we all crave.
It usually shows up when you start moving, even if you're not sure where you're going yet.
You got this.
Really, you do.
Until next time, thanks for listening to Andy and Anna Talks. Soft outro music fades in.